Hey guys, welcome to the RoundTable. Here at the RoundTable, we continue the conversations that we have had from Sunday morning and how you can have practical ways to help every person take their next steps towards Jesus together.
Hey everybody, welcome to the RoundTable. We're on episode number 5, starting our new season this year. So excited to be with you, give you just a little bit of a update or a little bit of a idea of why we do the RoundTable. So the RoundTable is done to help us further the discussion from Sunday morning, to go deeper into Scripture, but also to get the perspective of Scripture through the eyes of people. And so it's always great. We always have our co-host, and she doesn't have a stage name anymore, so it's Jenny Walker here with us again. And our special guest, Jennifer Eller, is with us here today. So excited about this episode. We're going to be talking about this last week as we ended up our Amplified series. But before we get into that, we got to always go through our segment of like, what's going on, what are you doing, and then we'll get to know our guest, learn a little bit about her, and then we'll go into our segment of looking at Scripture, trying to understand the past, how it affects us, and then don't forget the fan segment at the end, so make sure you watch it all the way through. So the fan segment is a great part of that. So Jenny, first of all, you can start us off. Okay. What's going on in your life? Anything new, anything exciting happening?
Yes, I just bought Grayson a unicorn
outfit
for Halloween. And yes, it may be
Have you tried it on him?
No, I ordered it from Chewy, so it was just shipped.
And you're sure he's going to wear it?
What do you mean he has no choice? I will make him wear it.
No, I know, but what if the dog freaks out and stresses out?
He's used to being dressed up.
Oh my gosh.
I dress him up all the time.
You dress your dog?
Yeah, I haven't lately, but yeah.
So did I tell you we're doing this Halloween party?
Yes.
Did we talk about that? So we're doing this whole...
I did not hear that.
We're doing a Harry Potter Halloween party at our house. Lexi's doing it, and she assigns us all what we're supposed to be. And so Isaac is Lucius Malfoy.
I don't know.
That's his name? Is that his name? Yeah, anyway. And so then he got a Slytherin tie for Zeus. So he put a tie on him, and Zeus is walking around the house with a tie.
Does he like it?
I don't know.
Or is he messing with it?
No, he just walked around with it. Zeus is pretty...
they're chill dogs.
Yeah, easy that way. Yeah. So it doesn't bother him too much.
See, he's dressing up his dog.
Okay, so you'll bring us a picture on your dog stressed out, eating chicken nuggets and dressed in a unicorn.
You don't even have to ask. I will give it no matter what.
Maybe you should give the fans an update. Do you still feed your dog chicken nuggets?
We haven't been to McDonald's in a really long time, but no, I don't feed him chicken nuggets anymore. We've moved on to plain double cheeseburgers.
I don't think dogs are supposed to have things with grain in it.
Oh. See? Tell her, Jennifer.
It has to be grain-free.
And you know what's weird? I was listening to YouTube today, and a commercial came on that was just talking about what you should not feed your dogs, and grain was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that really a thing?
It really is
a
thing.
Corn.
Your dog food has to be grain-free?
Mm-hmm. Listen, all of the dog foods have grain in them and really bad stuff, apparently. It was like this 35-minute.
Yeah, well, don't you know dog food is just made from all the leftover.
Yes.
Like when they say lamb, it ain't like real lamb.
I know. I learned that
I mean, it's
today.
like the leftover pieces grounded together and, pasted in a little nugget form.
They say that when it says that, it's
we buy like $60 dog food.
Do you? Mm-hmm. From where?
And is it grain-free?
Orscheln's. Mm-hmm. It's called Taste of the Wild.
Taste of the Wild.
But it's got
do you do the thing where you can order your dog stuff online? Dog food?
Mm-hmm.
No.
You do?
I do, yeah.
No.
Chewy?
No. But we get a bark box every month, so Sugar gets toys in the mail.
Isaac did that too, and I'm like, you need to stop that because it's like having a child again. There are toys everywhere. Zeus has a little toy box.
Oh, yeah.
This is how terrible our house is now.
Oh, I know.
So we have Zeus with a little toy box. He gets all of his toys out. And I'm like, Isaac, I'm going to kill you. That dog needs to put his toys away.
Yes, you teach him how to do that.
I don't think they'll do it.
I about tripped over a ball yesterday. I was so mad. Oh. Anyways.
So grain-free. So
yes, grain-free.
Because I buy the stuff that we buy too, $67.
They're expensive.
Purina Pro Plan something, but I bet it has grain in it.
Guarantee.
Maybe not.
Okay, but that's a thing to not do.
Right.
There's 3 preservatives that you want to stay away from.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and double cheeseburgers are one of them.
That wasn't on the list, actually. I didn't hear the vet say that, so we're good.
Okay, so Jennifer, tell us a little bit about you. what's going on. We'll get into so tell us a little bit about you,
Yeah.
position at Life Church, kind of where you are, and I'll kind of help fill in the blanks that you don't like to talk about yourself.
No, I really don't like to talk about myself. So, Jennifer Eller, born and raised in Huntington. So, lived here all but 3 years of my life when Eric and I got married. Moved to Purdue to finish up school up there.
You stayed on campus at Purdue?
We did. We lived in married student housing. Mm-hmm.
So are you a Purdue fan too?
Just because it brings the most money into our household.
So go Purdue.
Yes.
Really
that's
don't
perfect.
care. I do love the campus. I do love going to games. We don't do that very often anymore. Life's gets a little bit busy, but I do.
Okay, so
like
3
Purdue.
years away at Purdue.
3 years away. Told him I was ready to come home, so we moved back to town. So been at Life Church for almost 11 years. Started volunteering on staff right away. About 6 months into it.
And you got to tell the funniest part of the story. You know, when Jennifer came on staff, or when Jennifer first came to Life Church, it was reluctantly.
It was.
I don't think I knew that, unless you shared that sometime.
I did share it in Discover Life
Okay,
last
well,
time, but
It's
I
always
knew
just
that
a
then.
funny part of her story because I always tell people this because Jennifer and I have a great
I do
relationship
remember
and
now.
have been great friends for a long time. But when she first came here, I met her, I think it was like on a Christmas Eve or around Christmas time.
Yes, so we first came here December 26th. So we had been at our church in Fort Wayne for almost 5 years, and Eric had come to me and said, "Hey, we live in Huntington. Why are we going to church in Fort Wayne?" And so I did not want to leave. There was no reason for us to leave our church. We were both growing. We were in leadership roles. God had actually told me I was going to work for a church, and so I thought I was going to work for the river. And when he said that, I was like, nope, what do we do? I'm still going to go here. You got to find a church. I am not leaving. So that was a 6-month journey of God working within me to say, you are actually going to leave. So that October of that year, I finally said, fine, I will follow if that's what you said that we're supposed to do for our family. So we were starting, Life Church kept coming up into my field of vision. I had met Sherry at a fall party for Isaac and Trevor. Eric was coaching PAL football. We met Jen and Shane Gerber, was going to Coffee Divine at the time, and Janelle Smelser and Bobby Bailey worked there. And so I was just all these people I was getting to know who came to Life Church. But I thought, God, if you're moving us, we want to go where you want us to go, because it's like, when we found a church initially, it wasn't because God really called us there. We just went because my best friend was going there. Right. And this time it was different. It's like, you have a reason for us to be moving. And so what is that reason that we're leaving? So,
and it sounds like everybody that you were meeting and just getting connected to, it was already like God providing a way.
He was pushing us this way. And I remember going on the website one night, and I was so mad. I was on Life Church's website. And
she's like angrily
Why?
going
Because
on the
it wasn't
website.
good, or because
right?
because it was outdated?
Let's find out.
See, Nick wasn't on staff
Exactly.
then.
I was about
that
to
was
say.
my point.
He's shaking his head.
No, it was before Nick,
We
but
can't
I would
blame
have
him.
guessed because Jennifer knows how much I hate websites because they seem outdated. all
No,
the time.
not you.
I would not have critiqued it at that time, but I was just mad because here I am looking at Mike's picture on there, and I'm like, why am I on here? Why am I on here?
She was mad at your face.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So we decided, so we had a Christmas Eve service at the river. So we left there. The last time was December 23rd, and we walked in here December 26th.
Wow.
And remember this, because Jenny, do you ever go around and say hi to people at church?
Yes, but are you talking about the handshake thing?
I'm just saying.
I'm so glad we don't
Jennifer
do that.
and Eric, they were sitting back there, and I went up, and I'm like, hey, it's good to see you guys. And Jennifer, because if you know her, she's like really bubbly and nice. She was like, hey.
Really?
I probably was.
It was very much like, I'm here.
But I hate my life.
And I only say that because if you look at what
the
God's done
story.
in Jennifer's life now and how, the things have happened over the years, it was just funny how it started because, and maybe I'll tell a little bit of your story that you're going to already tell. But then after we met, we got together and she asked to meet with Sherry and I. And so we got there and so we sit down and immediately, I don't have my phone here with me, immediately she's like, okay.
I don't know if it was immediately.
What?
No, not in a bad way. Jennifer is just a list taker.
So let's back up just a
She
second
wants
here.
to defend herself.
So we were going to check out a few churches, but Life Church was one of them. And we said, we're going to come 2 weeks. We're going to give a church 2 weeks, not just one. We're going to come 2 and see what we think. So we came 2 weeks, and then they were getting ready to do their business meeting. And I said, we need to go to that one if this is where we feel like God was calling us. So we did that. And I told Eric, I said, take me back to the river. I got to go back to normal. So we went back there Sunday. And then we visited 2 other churches in Huntington. We only went 1 week to each one of those because we just felt like one was a church I grew up in, and Eric's like, I think some of these people walked with Jesus. So
Oh my gosh,
a true quote.
That does make a difference.
It was. I mean, it was good. A lot of people remember me from my
I know, I've never heard that before. You need to write that down.
It just was not. We just knew it wasn't the place. The other one, we felt like they had it too much together. Anyways.
They had it too much together? You didn't have that feeling at Life Church.
I did not. So every place we went, I wrote notes because I had done guest services up at the river. And so I was looking for certain things, or I had questions about certain things, or why they did it. Because like I said, if God was calling us, there was a reason why he was calling us away. And so we did. We went to dinner, and then, we got to know each other, and we're talking, and then it was like, okay. So out comes my iPod at the time. And
it was an iPod?
It was an iPod.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That dates
both
of us.
Okay,
Yeah.
I still had a flip phone until I started working here, and then we get text messages, group, and I couldn't get them on my flip phone. So then I had to go to a smartphone.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, it was awful. I'm like, I'm in a group text, but I can't read
Life Church
anything.
pushed you into the iPhone.
Wow.
You have done so many things to push me in so many directions. It's not even funny.
Jeez.
You made me get Twitter. I don't want Twitter. You made me get Twitter for Champs for something years ago. So,
wow.
Anyways.
She is holding on to that.
I am. I have a list.
Mad about the Twitter.
I have a list. So we decided that this is where we were going to be. And so that was probably March, April that we did that. So God was already working on me to heal my heart and to show me that this is where we were supposed to be. So, yeah.
And again, part of Jennifer's story that she'll never tell, but I always tell people this, is like one of the best things about Jennifer is that even though she's very detailed, like if you know her, like she's very organized and very detailed, and usually you can't mix that personality with, okay, God, but do whatever you want. And so from the time that I met Jennifer and the time that we've been working together, she's been very much like, this is the way we're going to do it. And these are the things that we're going to do. And we got to make sure that all the ducks are in a row. But at the same time, watching her grow in her relationship with Christ and watching her being open to the leading of the Spirit has been a really cool thing, because it was unnatural. But like in the beginning, it was kind of unnatural. Yes. But now it's become like, right? Wouldn't you agree that it's something that you wouldn't?
Yes. And probably in the last 5 years. For sure is probably really when it started, that I really started trying to trust God and his leading and where he was taking me. And, even in the last couple of years, I just continue to see that change within me, and how I'm almost going to cry.
No, that's right. She brought her own Kleenex box.
She told us that she's going to be the first person to cry on our show, which is true. But that's why we love her.
That's why we love Jennifer.
She has so much empathy and a big heart.
Yes.
Yep. So.
Yeah. But again, and I've always told this to you, that's one of the cool things about your story. Like if you go through and see what God has done and how he's used you, because one of the things we do here at Life, and this, everybody that's worked on staff here, if you haven't experienced it, you will, at some point. And anybody that's come to Life Church for a while, we always are challenged people to get out of the box, right? Don't be comfortable, don't listen to what everybody else says, but listen to the Lord and then try to bring it all together. And that honestly is a hard thing to work under.
Yeah, it is.
Right? So anybody that's been here would say one of the most challenging things about working at Life Church is it's kind of a blank slate. And we kind of say like,
and
listen.
Nick loves those.
And like listen to the Lord, and we'll give some direction. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we've always said is we don't want to build empires, we want to build kingdoms. And so kingdoms are built because God is moving us in places. Empires are built because it's our own ideas, And so you've really been, good with that and open to see the Spirit move. And I think you can attest to, like, God's done some pretty amazing things.
Oh, my heavens.
Right?
It's just,
to see him work in lots of different ways. And not only from a church perspective, because you've been here, how long have you been here?
So we'll be here 11 years in December.
Wow.
So I've worked here for 10 and a half. So I'm the longest person on staff right now.
And I've always told people, like, if you know Jennifer and they say, well, what does she do? I'm like, well, here's my best way to describe Jennifer. She's a linchpin. Do you know what a linchpin
No.
is?
There's a book that I started
There is a
reading
book.
that you can read.
I told her, I'm like, here, this is a book. So linchpin is something that
Linchpin.
hooks something together.
Okay.
So it's like a pin
Uh-huh.
that holds like trailers and stuff together. And
Oh.
so there's this book called Linchpin, and
Uh-huh.
it talks about how in your business, everybody has a linchpin,
That's
that holds
Jennifer.
all of the things together. And so Jennifer has been a linchpin, and not only a linchpin in our business, a friend to our family, so she's been there for our family and been very supportive, and even through the loss of Sherry, so not only are we business people who work together inside of the church, but just been family, friends, and throughout all of that time. So it's been a great journey, right?
It's wonderful.
So let's let's move on to, unless you got like, hey, this is something interesting I'm doing right now. We always like to give our fans, are you reading anything that you really like?
Besides the linchpin.
She didn't read it. She started.
I actually took it when we went away for a few days in September. I'm like, I'm going to go back to this book,
gosh,
and
that was a
never
long
even
time
looked at
ago.
it.
It's okay.
But I am reading a book by Lisa Turkhurst. It's called What Happens When Women Walk in Faith. So Kim,
Is that a new one?
I don't know. Kim Haline Patmore gave it to me and her small group, and I started really reading it, and it was just like, so, yeah. And so that's just really been something that's resonated with me, even like recently. It's like, yeah, how do I continue to walk in faith? I mean, God's the only one that's got it all, you know, and the world's crazy. And so
Yes.
how
Amen.
can I
Yes, it
just,
is.
Amen.
get through today?
Yeah, so that's what we should have used a sound machine on. Like,
Okay. Oh my gosh, have you even tested it out?
Yes.
Yes, it's
You
just I
have?
thought I have to put my glasses on, so the world's crazy.
Um,
Yes, we all agree. We all agree. And this is what we all want to do with a crazy world. Does this thing stop?
Are there numbers? I
No,
don't know.
listen, this is what we want to do in a crazy world.
what is that? What is that?
It's a gun. It's a shotgun. Yeah, like that's those feelings we have inside of a crazy
Just
world.
up
I
in the
didn't
air.
say that.
No, I did.
know.
I'm not putting those words in your mouth.
No,
That's
just
for
up
me.
in the air.
Huh?
Not up in the air. We can shoot up in the air.
Yeah.
Well, I can, but you can't.
Take out your frustrations.
That wasn't me. I didn't have
Go
it.
shoot your deer.
Huh?
Go shoot your deer.
Yeah, you go out in the
No.
woods and you shoot a deer.
I could never.
Never shoot a deer?
I could never.
Don't say never.
I couldn't.
Huh?
I could not.
Hey, Jennifer, anything you're watching or you're excited to watch?
I do not watch a lot of TV.
But you said you were.
So Eric binge watches different shows. So there's one on Amazon that he just started watching because a farmer recommended it. It's called Clarkson Farms, and it's a farmer over in England, and it is funny.
Really?
Yeah. So he watched a couple last night. I was working on work,
Okay.
but I was in the room, so I was watching it partly.
Now, here might be a surprising fact that people would not know that Jennifer likes. Well, I think you like it. Yellowstone.
I do
The
watch
TV
that.
show?
Yes.
I think if people would look at Jennifer like, she wouldn't like Yellowstone. But you guys like Yellowstone, right?
Yep.
And that's coming out soon.
It is.
Because Eric said,
I
hey,
still
like,
haven't seen it.
Yes.
you haven't seen any of Yellowstone?
No.
That's good.
Yeah, is it on Prime? Because I saw it. Or is it
No,
on
it's actually-
Apple?
No, it's actually, you can only get it on Peacock.
What?
I saw it
What
on
about
something.
Paramount?
That's part of like Peacock,
Oh.
I think, because Eric said, make sure we have this. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have all of
It's
these things. I
that
really have to
good?
buy something else.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
it is good.
way beyond good.
Okay, well, I just might have to. Have you ever been to Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I
well,
love
that was
it.
one of the reasons we started watching it. We
Oh.
got back, and I was
Oh,
doing marriage
that's right.
counseling with a couple here, and they're like, well, did you go to the Dutton Ranch?
Hmm.
And I'm like, what's the Dutton Ranch? And they're like, it's on Yellowstone, the TV show, and then you could actually go to the true Dutton Ranch when you were out west. And, like, we didn't do it, so then we started watching it, and we're like, wow.
That's cool. You should go.
Because
now.
it shows part of the country that we had been in, you know, so it shows part of the edges of Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was cool, but
That is so
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, no, Yellowstone's awesome.
I know, I love
Okay, so let's
Yellowstone.
get into this week we finished our Amplified series. So for you guys that are maybe listening for the first time, so the Amplified series was the idea that voices in the world become amplified that shouldn't, and what we know about voices in our lives is the loudest voice tends to win. You know, so whatever that amplified voice is, it tends to change the direction or the decisions that we make in life. So the series was to say there's lots of those voices, but let's pick a few, you know, and say these voices shouldn't be amplified, so you're going to have to try to figure that out. Then we actually talked about how do you hear the voice of God, because I think for a lot of people that's a challenging realm. Like, how do you hear the voice of God, and then how do you position yourself to be able to listen? Just like you're saying, like, I want to hear what God has to say, but for a lot of people, that's a like, I don't know if he's talking. I don't know if it's what I watched on TV talking. I don't know if it's the right, and so they become paralyzed with, I don't know what to do because I really don't know, right? So we talked through that whole idea, like, how do you listen to the voice of God? And then we ended with the past. And part of the reason we ended with the past is because we probably should have ended with, like, here's God's voice. But the past, I did because it was something very personal to me, for the things that I've been going through and just the things that I'm unpacking in my own heart to try to figure out what that looks like, and saying pieces of our past can dictate the direction of our future, right? And so if you don't deal with it, then you got to work through it. So we said there are three types, right, or three things that we need to deal with. The first one is the past, meaning that you wish you still lived there, right? And I said, well, that's my circumstance. So my circumstance is I would look at my life and said, we were like, I mean, you ever get to these phases in life, you're like, it can't get any better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we were at, businesses are running okay. The church is growing. Staff is better than it's ever been. Great things are happening. You're not poor, when you mean, 'cause you remember, like, when you're raising kids and you're young, it's like, does all the money go to them? You know what I mean? Isn't that true?
I still feel like that, but yes.
Nick,
Yes.
isn't that
Kids
way?
are
I mean,
expensive.
kids are
They
younger.
are.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like it doesn't matter how much you work, you can't ever keep up, and especially trying to raise 8 kids.
Yeah, that's
insane.
insane.
It's like you're never out of the 8 ball, or you're always going to all of their stuff, so you never really have any time for yourselves.
Yeah.
So we had got most of the kids out of the house, got everything, where you wanted to be, financially to place, and so we were kind of like, hey, this is what you've worked your entire life for, and then Sherry ends up passing away. And so I'm like, I want to go back. You know what I mean? I want it to be the way that it was. So that's for some people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wish I could live in the past because I don't think the future can be better. Right? So you struggle with that. And or there's something in your past that had happened that, although you might have got past it, it still affects you, right? There are still things that are brought up when those broken pieces of your past are like, it still affects the decisions of your future. And then the third thing is that's personal. So like each one of us can probably relate with something in that. The other one is how you look at other people. So to say, and Jenny brought this up like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so she was, saying like part of her past, people will affect her future because she had a past, right? So Jenny is always going to be, well, is Jenny the drug addict? Or is Jenny the whatever? And so Jenny can't be this because she was always this, So as Christian people, how do we look at, and understand how God wants us to portray or look at people and how we go down those roads? So let's talk first of all about this whole idea of how wanting something in the past, to either be the same or to be different affects the way that we approach the future. So Jenny, any thoughts on that, like personally with your past or anything that's happened with you where it's like, yeah, those pieces at times have really affected, even my decisions in the future because of those pieces being broken?
I think like going back and reminiscing on the past, but then wanting it, like for it to be today, it affects your future because you're only looking in the past, whereas you're not focusing on like what's now. So I think your decisions can be affected in that way. I used to really, like when my grandma had passed away, that was the one time in my life that I can like clearly remember me feeling that way, like that I wanted to go back. And I've also wanted to go back for other things to change the past, like to change the things that led me to the tough things in my future or today. But I don't know. I just think dwelling on it's like what could have been or what if or.
Yeah, well, let me ask it this way. Do you guys think that, because when I was preaching this message, like part of it is, and this happens sometimes, like I'm just preaching a message to myself, and then I'm looking out there thinking, I don't really know that this applies to anybody. Do you guys think, or Jennifer, do you think that people's past, whether they want it or it's broken or somebody's been identifying you as this, has an effect on the way that they live their future? Like, do you think a majority of people have some of that in their life, a past or a,
Oh, I mean, all of us have a past. We all
Right.
have things that we don't, wish we didn't do, regrets.
Yeah.
That do shape, our future. The thing that really resonated with me because, I can't say I want to go back to the past for anything,
Sure.
where
Right.
I'm at right now, per se. But I just felt like everybody could take away the analogy that you said, how God is molding us. Like every day I feel like is a new day. That God is molding us every single day. Yesterday is the past.
Right.
It doesn't matter, And so we can just look at that, his grace and his mercy every day. It's like, okay, here we are today. What is he going to do with us today?
Right.
And not be defined by what our past is, because we all have that. It's like a lot of people don't know my past, but I might define myself by my past. It's
Right.
like Jennifer did this,
Right.
she
yourself.
did this, and it's like, no, I don't have to. That's not who I am.
Right.
And so I think we can just wrap ourselves up into that mental cycle and think through all of that stuff all the time, even though the world may not think that
And I
of
think-
us, and we just struggle with that.
And I think that's a great analogy. Like what you just brought up, I think is really good. And maybe we should focus a little bit about that because it's not even necessarily what happened
Yeah.
5 years ago. Like we're saying that there's a possibility that, especially in the line of work that we're in, because we're in the people business and everybody has an opinion. And sometimes, they get their feelings hurt, and there's like, well, in the past, meaning yesterday,
Yeah.
somebody has a view of me because of whatever it was, and that we could get stuck in that, right? I mean, that's what you're saying, Jennifer, right? Like there's this idea that even yesterday in the past could affect, like, because of the whole identity thing. Like people see me differently.
Yeah. I see that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's good because maybe when we think about the past, we think of it from a long time
Yeah,
ago.
I don't think we're thinking about it being from yesterday, even though that is the past. But I think we put a time limit on it.
Right.
Like the past is like, even a year ago, I don't think that people consider that the past.
Right. Yeah, like you're right. Maybe we're thinking way back when.
Yeah.
Because in it, the whole idea was a couple things. So one, when we're stuck in our past, and again, I think, so we'll ask you guys this. So part of the scripture that we looked at in Isaiah was this idea that when you're in your past, it's like being in a wasteland. You know what I mean? And so that wasteland, I think, can look different for different people. But there is this truth about when you sit there in the past that's broken or not the way we want, or we're being identified that way, it does feel like a wasteland, right? Like, I mean, it feels like there is no hope around us. And so he defined it as that. And he said it's good because I think this is an important thing. And here's what we said: like, if you want your future to go bad, ignore your past, right? So there is something about going back and learning, right, from your past. So let's talk about that a little bit. So what is it? Whether it's a day before, or whether it's a year before, or whether it's 5 years before, 10, how can we learn from our past? Like, how do we, in a godly perspective, and help our audience learn from our past? What can we do? Or maybe give some examples, Jenny, of your own past, or Jennifer, in your own past, where like this is, and you don't have to give specific instances, but just like this is a way to unpack those things that were happening in the wasteland, and I learned from it in this way. I didn't dwell in it. That's what he said.
Right.
Dwelling it is when we get in trouble.
Yeah.
But learning from it's important.
That's one thing you really learn in recovery when you get in recovery is that you have to go back to the past and unpack the things that led you there. Because if you really think about it, and not even in like a drug term, or if you use drugs, you can put it in anybody's life, like whatever shaped you in the past, even if it was yesterday, is making you do something, whether it's physical or mental or, just anything that affects you today. But in recovery, they teach you to go back and process all, like anything, pretty much everything your whole life.
Well,
So-
let's stay on that for just 1 second.
Yeah.
So as an example, I think you've shared this on the podcast before, but
Probably.
you felt like something, you don't have to say this, but
Right.
something happened in your life
Yes.
that then led to some of the decisions of your future.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is you have to go back and unpack that. So how do people do that? I mean, I think that's the important part is that we're saying you do have to go back, but what does unpacking that look like?
Well, for me, it was going to counseling.
Okay.
So you're sitting with somebody who knows exactly what to say and how to bring it out of you because they're trained to do that. And the most important part, they're not letting you sit in it that long.
Oh, okay.
Like once you've come to the conclusion or got out of it what you needed and she feels that you or he is ready, then you move on.
Okay.
So you're not dwelling in it or, you've processed it and on to the next.
Yeah, so you would say, based upon what we talked about in the message, we said you need to go back to your past with Christ or
Definitely,
in Christ
yeah.
and in community. So what you would say is then maybe this is a recommendation to the audience who've never thought this, is sometimes you need that somebody to help you unpack it.
Yes, I agree.
Right.
Definitely.
Would you say the same thing, Jennifer? Is like it's good to have other people help you unpack, your past and go through those things?
Yeah, because I had done counseling as well for maybe a 5-6 month period.
Yeah.
And it was so good. What I kind of went for was part of it, but she took me back to why am I doing things today, back to my past. And it was very interesting.
Yeah.
I was just amazed
Right.
at it. So that was good. And like you say, like community, I think a mentorship, like somebody that you can really like talk to or can help you. I get in my head a lot,
Yeah.
and last week I wasn't in a really great place, and then we met and you dragged stuff out of me,
So annoying.
so annoying.
Gosh.
But it
Jeez.
helps me because my
Yes.
thoughts start spiraling and
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm not thinking the right direction and so it's like, who are those people that you can go to say, this is kind of what I'm thinking and bring that back.
Well, that's something that you had said in the message was that you needed to, if you're in the wasteland, then that's all you see is the wasteland.
Right.
And that's why counseling, community, friends are good people to lift you up because it is true. Like when you're suffering or struggling or in a trial, it's hard to see the good things.
Right.
But and also, I know when I get like really anxious, I'm like, okay, I know I've got to sit down. I got to spend time with God right now, and I have to journal this stuff. I have to write out what's going through my head.
Yay, we finally found somebody that's journaling.
Not as often as I should, but
you're doing it.
I
Yes.
do, and I enjoy it. But when I do it, it takes me an hour or
Yes.
so because I want to
I know.
read and I pray and then I like journal, and it's a process. If I'm
know.
going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then so I don't find the
That's
time
why I
I
don't
should.
do it.
But it is so, so good. And I have seen God work through that. It's like, I journaled this, I read this, I picked this. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay,
Like
here
confirmation.
you are. Yes.
the
Hey,
best.
so
Yes.
let's stay on that.
I
Okay.
love that.
Because this is one of the things that, so I'm not real good with community piece because I'm somewhat of a private person, so I don't really unpack a lot of my feelings, in those ways. And you know that probably more than anybody, but so this whole idea, that's why I journal, because one of the reasons that I journal is I unpack all of my feelings like I'm talking to him, so I have
Makes
this
sense.
conversation with God through my journal that would be like everything that I wouldn't say to anybody.
Is in that journal.
Oh, yeah. I always think about that if somebody reads my
I know,
journal
that's
someday.
terrible.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's good because I think it does. It just teaches us, like, we should be at a place, because that was the other part we were talking about in the message. Like, you have to do it with Christ, and that's where I have found, like, I can say anything I want, and I can go back and forth and I can unpack things. And it might seem weird, but there is this, and this is what you're saying about the journaling. The journaling is allowing you to take some time with him, right, to unpack what you feel. And in that, we won't probably directly say that, well, God says something back and it's a conversation, but anybody that has done it does feel it.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, and I feel I can just let it go. It's like I laid it at his feet. He's got it. I don't need to think about it anymore. Not to say I won't journal about it again, but for that moment,
It's not
it's
the
like
same.
it's just like, okay, you're in control. You know what's happening, and he can then help me start working through that.
Yeah, and so you're doing, like, with the in Christ piece, you would be saying, I'm unpacking this with him, and whether there's an answer or not really isn't. Because what we're
Right.
teaching people, and I think this is what we need to emphasize, what we're teaching people is he's the answer. Because here's the
Right.
problem with the past. There is no fix. Right? Like you can unpack it. We can talk through it.
Go through so many counselors.
Right.
Everything.
That's the point, right? Like the situation that happened to you, whatever that was that led you into a life of addiction, right? You can't even fix it. Right? Like there is no fix, no matter what the counselors say. Or not that we're not saying counseling's not important and all of that, but part of this, and that's why I'm so big on like you need to find a place where you truly can unpack your feelings with the one that we need to draw the closest to, because and this is the reason I say it together, because Jennifer's heard me say this 1,000 times, is like for us as a staff, for anybody that's a counselor, so anybody that is listening to people unpack their heart and their feelings, we need to remind them we're not Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that can easily happen. Like we can just continue to be the answer to them, right? I mean, you've been in those situations where people, you know, instead of saying like, I'll give you some direction, but the direction's that way and it's Jesus, and I'll just keep pointing you back to them, because otherwise we become somewhat of the answer.
I think that's what they go looking for when they come to you, is the answer.
Right. And you know what I mean, though? Like we can be a piece of the pie, but the answer is always going to be a deeper relationship with Christ.
Right.
And I think a lot of times we go into these situations because, like you said, Jennifer, here's the present, and 2 days ago might have been the past in my relationship, right? So just as an example, in marriage counseling or in whatever these problems are that people are dealing with. And so they're coming to you saying, hey, how do I fix this? And then they're just waiting for the next this, right? And so they want you to be always the answer, right? And they come to us. And so we have said, anybody that's on staff here at Life, we always just be like, I can give you some guidance, but just so you know, that situation's only going to get fixed if, right, you go towards Jesus and or allow him to be those things. So in that, so one of your recommendations, Jennifer, to our audience would be, one, we got to do it in community, right? So counseling is a great part of it, but you would also say to find a time, and for you, I still say this, I agree that journaling has to be a part of it.
It does have to be a part of it. And we have New Life Church journals. So you
can
get
I have one.
Do
Look
you?
at that.
See? So you can start
I love
journaling.
mine.
Yeah. Have we been selling any?
I think so.
have sold
People are excited about it on social
12,
media.
maybe.
Wow. That's
12 of them.
impressive.
So, yeah. So,
And here's
I
why.
love mine.
And you said it, but I just want to make sure we emphasize this. You can have thoughts in your head, but until it comes down onto paper, the thought isn't like complete. Does that
Somebody
make sense?
who doesn't journal, I agree. I love journaling, that's the thing, but I just write so much that it's like, it's just so consuming.
Nick, did we already ask you this question? Are you
Does
a
he
journaler?
journal?
Not really.
You don't journal anything?
Well, he talks a lot. I feel like people that like talk.
I
I think you do.
Are you kidding?
Talks
Have you
like
been around
me.
Nick?
Hey, I think he does. Maybe not to everybody, but I think the people that talk the most, like, are more vocal about, like, they're not personal. Like, to me, that seems like I'm getting it out, whether or not it's not the same as journal.
Well, no, I would just say, like, I
Right.
think people who would look at me would be like, I'm a talker, right? Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
always have something to say, always, but to truly
do.
unpack your,
What? It's
I
true.
do.
Yeah.
There's never a lack of conversation.
No,
is there?
not.
none.
No.
We always have something to talk
Oh,
about.
my.
Never ending.
But I think if you honestly try this, and this is what I would say to our audience, like, I think you just need to try, because I will just tell you from experience of somebody who never stops talking, there's a difference to
Yes.
take the time to unpack what's up here and put it down onto paper, because it makes you process,
Yeah.
right? It makes you process what you're feeling instead of it just running around there, you know, and it makes you slow down. Like, that's
Yeah.
the other part.
Yes.
Like, I could just sit here and in 5 minutes spew to you
Oh, yeah.
what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
which would take me an hour to
Yes.
write in my journal.
That's
you know,
why
and
it's
it's
so
just a complete difference. Wouldn't you agree, Jennifer, as somebody, as our only listener or person who journals?
That's probably not true. I guarantee. If you've journaled, leave a comment if you're watching.
Yes, that's true.
If not, email us.
Yeah, or tell us too your story of why
Yeah.
journaling is so good and how it helps.
Okay, so when I have journaled, I feel like what's been in my head, and then when I get it down on paper, it isn't as serious or deep or intense or dramatic. Usually it's not as dramatic as what it seems when it's on paper.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. You get like a different view of what was in your head. Because there are some crazy things that can be in your head. I'll tell you what.
I think it might be a girl thing, but
Yeah, that's what I was
it's
asking.
truly, because I was thinking about that, and like as I was processing what we may talk about. I thought, I process things different than Eric processes. He would
for sure.
never journal anything. He doesn't. I mean, but me, I do. I get fixated on things, and it just stirs in my head, and then I know that, Satan twists those things around, and I just go down roads, and it's just, it's not good. So, but I think it's more of a girl thing to journal. But
well, he does it.
no, I know he does. I think it's
Jennifer
more.
just took my man card.
No,
She did.
no.
I'm just
I
kidding.
think no. Everybody should.
Everybody but you.
Everybody should.
Everybody but you.
So it's more like a girl thing.
I've said this like so many times on this podcast. Okay,
What?
I need to start journaling.
No, I know.
write it down.
Right.
Okay, I need to start journaling.
Well, and again, Jennifer, you don't journal every day.
I do not.
No.
No.
So the point is, again, I think
That's
there
true.
is.
That's good.
So I think there's value in journaling in two ways. I shared this a long time ago in our podcast. One is, how cool would it be, like for me, to go back to Sherry's journal of when we were sophomores and juniors in high school, and she's writing about what we did.
I know. I heard that yesterday. And I thought, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
to be like her.
I know.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, just that thought of like going, because our kids laughed because Sherry and I, we were best friends. So it was one of the, I don't know if that's a weird part about our relationship,
think
but
so.
we just did everything together. So we met each other's needs. So we didn't need a lot of other type friends to do stuff with, because every time we wanted to do it, we had a lot of the same interests. So we just did it together. Right. And so the kids were reading her journals too. And it was like, we were gone for one night. I was going away, and she's like, I miss him so much. I haven't seen him in a day. And I'm like,
so cute.
It's so true. But
so cute.
how cool is it for your children?
Yes.
Or the people around you to be able to go back and look at like, what were you thinking and what were you doing and what was going on in life? So that's part of journaling. And then I do think it's like, it is one way to get your deepest thoughts, because let's be honest, how often is somebody really willing to sit with their thoughts?
Not
And
long
unpack
enough.
No, because it's hard.
Right,
It's
that's what I'm saying.
scary. It's like
Right.
you don't want to admit some of the things that you're feeling or you're thinking,
Right.
and that's where the trust comes in, that God's got it, and okay, He's got the plan. His plan's better than my plan, and
Right.
so I'm going to work through all of this and see where He's going to take me.
Right. But wouldn't you agree, though, Jennifer, is like when you do get to the journaling part, it forces you to deal with what you're thinking, right? Otherwise, you could just think it and go by it, or just go more,
Yeah.
let more thoughts come. But it makes you sit down and say, this is what I have to unpack. And I am going to take the time to take what's up there and really think through it. And again, this is a principle not on like, for sure this scripture, but it's something that we've talked about all the time. The other thing that you're doing when you start journaling is you're taking thoughts and comparing them to truth. You said that, right? Like when I unpack them and I write them down, then I look at them like, okay, it's not as big a deal, because now I'm able to see truth.
Yeah.
Because we know that one of the ways that Satan attacks, so the first thing that we know, so men, listen, don't forget this.
Long pause.
No, we know this,
they're
right?
listening.
From the beginning, who's Satan going to attack the most? Women.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I know.
And the reason is
Feel
because
that.
God wired women differently than did men, and He knows that He can make thought stir faster in a woman than He can a man, because a man just like, number one, I don't know if we I don't know if we think that deeply.
You don't?
Well, I do. Like, I think people who would talk to me be like, you think deeply, but most guys are pretty black and white.
Nick,
Like,
how do
oh,
you
so-
think?
Nick, are you
Black
deep?
and white.
Really?
Yeah, so I think most men, you'd say that about Eric,
wish I
right?
could
I
hear
mean,
what-
not that he's not a deep thinker, but it's like, it's either this or this.
It is. I mean, he thinks more about, the business we run, and so that's where his mind goes to a lot. And I think it might just be the profession that you're in
For
that
sure.
you have to think deeply, because you're leading a church.
All right,
And like
side
listening
note.
for God to, where's
Yeah.
He want to take us?
What's
So-
the
Do you
side note?
guys, I have something. Do you, when you think in, like, when you're just, like, say the color pink in your head right now,
Okay.
are you hearing an audible voice? Or is it?
What?
This is a
Where
thing.
are we going?
No, this is a
Nick,
thing. This is a
The
thing.
podcast has went off the rails.
No, this is a really intense. Some people don't have an audible voice in their head. Like they just don't think at all. I'm serious.
I mean,
it's
when
a
you
true
said that,
thing.
it's kind of like, oh, what would I envision as pink? Is that like, is
She
that
has
the
the
audible
voice.
I don't know, but you just really need to look at it. No, it's a really interesting thing.
Well, no, listen. So I think what I was saying is when it comes to decision making or thoughts, men are pretty good at saying, "Here's the one drawer. Yes, no, yes, no."
must be so
Women,
nice.
For sure.
women have 5 drawers out, being like,
Yes.
Yeah.
"Which drawer?" And I don't know. And I started work. It's like I said this last week. How can a woman start 5 books? It's because it's the way their mind works.
Yeah.
For a guy, I think it's way more like I'm opening a book.
Yeah.
I might never read it, but I'm only going to be on one at a
Yeah.
time, and I'm either going to read it or not read it.
Right.
When it comes to a decision, I'm going to make a decision or not, and then they tend to just let it go. Where women tend to dwell.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Satan knows
must be
this.
nice.
Yes.
So the man's responsibility, so this is what I'm saying. So the man's responsibility, and so I'm going to get off on a tangent, is to stand in the gap and bring truth.
Imagine that.
Right? Like, but let's be honest. How many men are doing their job today? And you don't have, this isn't an emphasis on Eric or anybody else or your future husband. I'm just telling you, men have
dish on him.
left.
I don't know him yet.
No, I'm just saying men have left the building when it comes to, first of all, knowing what your wife's even thinking.
Yeah.
Or spending time sitting with her and know, like, what are your thoughts and how can I help you do it? Because men are also task oriented. We got things to do when it comes to sitting down saying,
Right.
hey, can you tell me what you're thinking?
He's getting better.
No, I'm just saying for men
working on
generally,
it, but-
right? For men, I mean, is that natural for you, Nick, to sit down and be like, hey, Heather, let's just take a moment. Can I just unpack your thoughts?
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Let's hold hands. Always say.
No, so the point is, it's not natural. So it's
Right.
something that you really have to think about it. And the reason you would think about it is because you know that Satan's trying to get into the wife of your mind, the mind of your wife,
Yeah.
right? Or the mind of your daughters, right? Like, so you would do that so that you can say, let's bring truth to it. So if you don't have that, or for whatever season of your life it's not there, what we're saying is the reason that you unpack it with the Lord is because he is going to bring truth, right? So the reason that you do
Right.
journal, the reason that we do look at where we're at with our thoughts is it gives us a chance to say, I'm going to process this and not let Satan win. Because the way Satan wins is keeping him up there.
Definitely.
What, do you guys
Yes.
agree?
100%.
Yeah, and then they just keep stirring and they
Yeah.
keep going around and they keep going around. And the reality is, and we'll end this segment on this, is so this is the one thing that he says in Isaiah. The reason you can't dwell in the past is for a couple reasons. One is that if you live there, it's going to affect the decisions of your future, and you can't fix it, right? So you can think through, and I've thought this on myself, and I think some people think I'm uncaring when I say this, but I'm like, I get it. I made a mistake. I'm not thinking about it anymore. Like I know. So I'm going on to the new thing. So I'll do the best I can to learn from it, but I'm not going to think, and I don't know why you're still thinking about the mistake I made 2 weeks ago. Because
People
if
think that's uncaring.
well, I'm just like,
I
I don't
think
go
that's
I don't
how it
go
should
back
be.
to them and fix them. I'm just
Oh.
like, yeah, I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Oh, I
Right,
see.
Jennifer? You've been around me long enough to know this. Like, okay, I get it. It was a bad thing. Can we do the new thing? True?
True. New day.
Yeah. So I'm just, well, this style I am because, I mean, I can't fix it. What do you want me to do?
Right.
Like, I admit it. I made the mistake. I should have done better. But I don't want to live there.
Right.
Like, I want to
Yes.
understand that I can't fix that. No matter what I said to somebody I hurt, it honestly doesn't fix it
Oh, I
because they
know.
were still hurt in that moment, in that time. I can't fix it. So I have to realize the only thing I can do is a new thing, right? And go to that new
Yep.
place. And so that's where, in that story, he's saying, like, you can't do that because you can't fix it. But how about this? I can do a new thing. Like, and I want to do a new thing in you.
Yeah.
And although this was your past, and even what you were saying earlier, Jennifer, even if that means 2 days ago, today's a new thing, right? Like, God wants to do a new thing, and no
love that.
mistake or nothing in the past is going to define us, and he's going to do a new thing. So if you guys were going to give, as we wrap this up, if you were going to give some advice to our podcast listeners or those that are watching, Jenny, and we'll start with you, of like how to unpack, work through, and allow God to do a new thing and be okay with that, like what advice would you give them?
I'm really starting to like the journal thing because even though I don't do it, I don't do it because I avoid it, because I don't know, I think it's just part of my Enneagram 7, my personality type. We, as a Enneagram 7, like, I don't like to face my problems and deal with them, and I don't like negativity. So for me, I think journaling would be really good, and I think it would be good for everybody, because then you're faced with your problems. Like, you have no backing out of them. I think getting somebody to help you be accountable to the journaling, like, hey, have you journaled today, or something like that, to lead you on that path. But I don't know, I'm really liking the journal thing.
Well, I'm just saying what you said, I think, and let's just make sure we're all on the same page, is really true of a lot of people. Do you really want to slow down and unpack what you're thinking right now?
No, I hate that.
No, that's why. But that was my point.
Right.
The reason we don't create those times, like, and I'll just add to what you're saying, is that if you don't take a specific time to say you're going to do it, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to block out a piece of your schedule, and nobody's ever going to get it. So whatever that time is, and you're going to say, I'm going to do journal and reflection, and I'm just going to take that time. And that journal and reflection might be, I had one thought, and I'm going to unpack, and I'm done in 10 minutes.
Yes.
And you can move on to something else. But to never give yourself space in your schedule. So I'll add to what you're saying is that if you really want to get this done, you better add some space in your schedule. And you should better just say, I'm going to do it at this time.
Yeah,
so for you, it's never going to happen in the morning, because
Heck no.
your thoughts are so groggy, nothing's happening in the morning.
Oh, don't even expect me to do anything in the morning, because I'll be running around late for it.
But my point is, so pick your time. Everybody has a prime time, right? Like, and I'm, you can pick whatever that is, but you need to pick it, and you need to just say, no matter what's going on, because this is really important. If you think it's important, you're going to block that piece out, and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to sit down with my thoughts right now, and I'm going to deal with them, and I'm going to look at them, and I'm going to unpack them, in those places. And the same thing is, add to that, if we do truly want accountability, then you have to have somebody you talk to.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've heard people say this all the time, like, I want accountability, and then I'll be like, well, what are you guys talking about? Well, nothing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to share those things with them.
Right.
So what does accountability mean if you're never willing to share?
Yeah.
Right? So you have to find
true.
somebody in that safe place that you could say anything to, and then you could work from that spot.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. Jennifer, thoughts? Advice that you would give people out there trying to figure out how to work through their past, or, talk through ways that they can, again, continue to move forward in the future, or to look at this like, hey, I want God to do a new thing.
I took her answer.
Yeah. No, I was going to expand a little bit more. I know we're stuck on this journal thing
I know.
a lot today. But another piece of it, so if you journal, it's interesting to go back and reread that, even
Yes.
from a month ago or 2 months ago, and see how God works in that, because we forget. You get on with your day to day, and if you don't have that written down, you miss how God is actually alive and He's working and stuff. And another thought that I had was, like, if we get stuck in those places, we miss out on the joy that God has for us today.
Yeah.
So we don't want to miss what He's doing.
Right.
Because it's wonderful to walk with Him, even through the hard times. It's like He's got great things planned, and we're going to miss it.
Yeah, so I'll brag on Jennifer for a second. So here's the one thing, and maybe she won't say this, but this is the one thing that you could learn from Jennifer. In the beginning of Jennifer's journey, she didn't want a new thing. She liked comfortable
Reluctant.
and normal and staying in the box, And now Jennifer is like, blow up the box. I want a new thing.
I do. I mean, that's my
that's
mindset
different.
anymore. It is.
It's
It's probably
completely
even
different.
the last
Out of the box.
6 months, maybe a year. I don't know. But yeah, the way I'm like facing things, and it's like, and I have a hard time looking towards the future.
Right.
Like, Eric's talking about this and that, and I'm just looking at him like, I'm here today. What has God got for me today? I'm
wish I
not
could be like
thinking
that.
about tomorrow.
Right,
It's like,
right.
He's going to use me today.
Right.
What do I have, that manna? He's going to give me what I need today to get through today. And tomorrow will be tomorrow, and we'll do whatever tomorrow is going to be. Because we already know life is short. We don't know what's going to happen. And so I want to enjoy today.
Right.
I think that's really good, because a lot of people that I know really struggle with living for today. I do, really bad.
Well, and Jennifer and I have had these conversations a lot. Jenny, now that you're on staff, you'll hear a lot of these conversations.
Great.
Because I always say, Nick's heard lots of these conversations, is like, I want you to be open about where you're at in life. Because here's one thing we say about Life Church. Like, you got hired for a certain job, but I don't actually really care. I don't, because here's what I want you to do. Like, I want you to process with me where you're at. And so Jennifer and I and Nick and I and you and I will have these conversations of like, I don't know, I feel like God's, this is what I was doing, but I'm not sure it's fulfilling me like it was. And in the beginning, I think Jennifer would have said, I don't know, the new thing scares me. Now she's like, I'm excited for the new thing.
Oh my gosh, some of the things I think back when I first started that you had me doing, and now it's like, oh gosh, that was nothing, but I was scared, of what he was going to do. But now it's just like, okay, we're going to figure it out. And he's worked in me, and what I started, I don't really do anymore.
But it's not only like you're okay with it. I have seen inside of you this looking forward to, it's a new thing. Right. And although it was scary.
Amazing.
And I think that's for all of us. This is what you're going to have to learn.
Yeah.
If you truly want God to work in your life, first you have to be where he is. So if you're going to sit in that place because you're comfortable and because it's right and because you can handle it all and you can control it all, just so we're under the same notion, when you have it all under control, what do you need God for? Right? When you're at this place where you need no faith. And so that's why I always challenge people to be like, you know what? The reason we want to be in a new thing is because it's where he is, right? And so every day can be a new thing and the future can be a new thing, but we need to live as if it's a new thing. And I will even add to it and say, and we need to treat other people the same way. Like, I don't really care what your past was. It doesn't make me any difference what happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a year ago, because I'm trusting that God's going to do a new thing. And I'm going to help you recognize what that new thing is.
And that was one thing that resonated with me a few weeks ago when you said, look at the potential that people have.
Yeah.
I don't hold people's past against them because I've got a past too. I know better than anybody else. But when you start looking at, gosh, what does God want to do within her? What does God want to do with Nick? What does God want? It's like, wow, that was just eye-opening to start looking at people different.
Gives you a different perspective.
And when we do, this is what it allows us to do. It allows us to go into conversations with Jenny and say, you know what, here's some things that you can fix, but here's who I see God sees you as. And so it helps them also, because honestly, how hard is it as a person to sit there and think, I can become a new thing?
Well, and that's one thing that you're amazing with, as you look at each one of us, and our jobs have evolved because you do see what God can do within us that we don't see.
Right.
Whoever would have thought that this is where I would be?
Right.
Not me.
Right.
Not me.
No, not her. We know that.
Yes, but you do see that potential, and you don't dwell on our flaws.
Yeah.
And what we're not great at, you want to bring people around us to support us. And I know that's the same thing with you. It's like, how can I have some staff that can support me and make me look,
You're a good leader.
Good. Yes, you are.
It's World Boss Day.
That's not what I meant.
It is World Boss Day this Saturday.
Is it? Oh gosh. Well,
but I don't think I'm allowed to do anything on social media.
Yeah. So those
I got some good pictures.
So here's some personal things. Some of the advice we give. Take some time to unpack your feelings. So if you're not a journaler, find something that will stop you. That's all I'm saying. I was just saying journaling will make you stop and process your thoughts. Deal with the past, because those thoughts are usually thoughts of something that happened before. And it's in your mind today, but it's usually something that happened before.
Right.
Take some time, unpack them, figure out what it looks like, block out that time that you need to be able to have. And then also for us as a tool to help other people, because I think lots of people are stuck. And it's not necessarily in, I had this tragic past, but I'm just stuck in the present. Like, I'm just stuck in, like, this is all I'm ever going to be able to do, and this is all I'm ever going to be able to be. Our job as Christian people is to do what Jesus Christ said. Like, Jesus Christ said, like, God saying, I'm going to do a new thing. And so every time I look at somebody, and this should be for all of us, every time we look at somebody, we can look at them and say, like, I know, like, that wasn't probably what it should be, but God's going to do a new thing. And you will have people that will respond to that. Sometimes they won't, and that's just okay, but we're not going to be the bottleneck, right? So we're not going to be the people that holds them back by holding them to their past or holding them to their present and saying, well, because you are, no, listen, we're going to open that lid up and we're going to say, listen, go where God is, and we're going to help you navigate those things. So, all right, so that's our deal with the past, great advice,
Yes.
things we're doing. Now we're going to go to our fan segment. Fan segment last week
Yay.
was Jenny.
It was, so on Saturday, it was Sunday.
It
Just
doesn't
kidding.
matter.
Dang
Just-
it. On
it
one of the
was.
days last week, it was Mental Health Day. So
Yes.
we asked you to send a picture of something that you enjoy doing that makes you happy.
Okay, so Nick, we got some feedback. Because remember, on the fan feedback section, this is what we want.
Yeah.
We're always going to give you something to do, like so that we can keep getting feedback. But we also want you guys to send in questions, like future podcasts. We'd love you to do this, or like, hey, you can leave comments like this really
Yeah.
helped me, because that helps us understand the content that we're doing and the things that we can do better, or just, give us feedback on what's going on or what you would like to see. And so we'd love to interact with you, in those ways. So you can send it to the RoundTable
That's our
at
dream.
lifehuntington.com. Make sure you send it in there. But with that, we also will have a Mental Health Awareness Week was
Yep.
last week. And so we said send in pictures. We vote on those pictures, and what do people win?
They get a $10 gift card to the Cafe of Hope.
Okay, and so Jenny will get with you. So if you're the
Yes.
winner of today's podcast or
Yep.
today's fan section, then Jenny will get with you and get that. So Nick, go through our pictures with us.
The first one is from Tammy Little.
Tammy Little, great picture, but Tammy, you can't be a repeat winner. So I'm not voting for you.
No, she won the week before last.
Well, no,
she's
you
still
can't be a
repeat.
repeat
Oh,
winner. So that was something Scott did. So Scott used to take dressers, and I think she would sand them down, and he would repaint
Is
them.
that's
See,
painted?
that could be Scott Little.
Yeah,
because
so he
Scott did that.
airbrushed them.
Oh my
He airbrushed
goodness.
that on there.
Yeah, he's
That's
Pretty
really
cool.
good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
This is from Callista Denny.
Yes, and she likes to do it outside.
She's got my vote.
Oh, awesome.
She said she likes to take pictures of nature when
Okay.
she's down,
Okay.
and I completely agree.
Okay. Awesome.
And then we didn't get a picture from Adam, but
I
this
thought he
is
did
what
send
he
one.
does.
Maybe I'm losing it.
So through his Taekwondo.
Yes.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My mental therapy for stress. Wait, that's supposed to be mental.
My mental.
Metal therapy.
I can't
wonder what
spell.
that is.
Sorry,
My
guys.
mental
Either way, it
therapy
doesn't
for
matter. Yeah,
stress
sorry.
and anxiety is Taekwondo for the last 10 years, 5 years.
Five.
Okay, there's a
It
glare.
says five.
There's a glare.
Okay,
I
keep
carry
going.
a red, black stripe belt and one belt away from a black belt. Dang, watch out
Wow.
for
So
him.
nobody messed with Adam.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
The focus this takes in learning all of the patterns, kicking, punching, grappling. Dang it.
Grappling. Yep.
Dang it. You should always stick with your first thing you say.
If you
Is
get
a
that last
stress
word right, I'm going to be impressed.
Oh, dang it. I didn't even see it because Jennifer said it was in the way. Is
The-
a stress reducer the
Can you-
quadrans?
Quadrants, maybe.
I was right. Can
Wow.
do an amazing job,
Yeah.
Adam.
So nobody messed with Adam.
Yes.
Maybe that's what we should do. Send a picture in of Adam beating somebody up. I wonder if he has any of those.
He might have some good pictures from the. What has he been doing?
The Spartan race.
Yeah, the Spartan
Yeah,
race.
no.
I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some really intense pictures of him out there.
You mess with Adam, and he's going to be.
He's going to come
Yeah,
get you.
yeah, he's going to be. So we just had 3 of them to vote on today. Jenny, your vote.
Well, there was one, but it didn't get sent in correctly.
Well, yeah, I couldn't get Linda's, but
Yeah.
she's a repeat.
She can't win anyway.
Sorry, Linda.
So what are you voting on?
I'm voting for the photography.
Okay.
Yep, Callista.
Nick.
Unanimous.
Hey, look at that. My vote doesn't even count. So
Callista.
Callista wins. Yay.
Wow.
We had to make sure we used the sound machine.
I know.
that-
Are there just numbers or does it say what it is?
I don't know. It has like symbols on it.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, so you got to figure out what the symbols are. Okay, so what's fan segment for next week?
So
Jenny?
next week, thanks to Jennifer, she picked it out, is send us your favorite costume, your Halloween costume as a child.
Favorite.
So if your mom
They
made
don't have
it-
to be dressed up in it.
Yeah.
They have to be
Yeah.
dressed up in
Yes.
it? They can't just be like
Well,
going
how-
through Walmart and be like, I love the Hulk.
No.
No.
Send it in.
Well, I thought it's of childhood.
Yeah.
So
You're
we
gonna
want
get
to
some
see
from me
those
next week.
1970 like yellow
Oh, yeah.
colors pictures. That old.
Or can they send us pictures of their kids in Halloween
Yeah,
costume?
that works.
Yeah, so they could send that.
Just kids in costumes.
Yeah, the kids
I'm
in costumes.
sending my dog one.
Okay, awesome. All right, so thanks everybody for joining us this week on the Roundtable. We look forward to you guys coming and listening. Make sure you subscribe, give us feedback, and we just thank you for being here with us. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.